The poetry we are going to analyze today is Strange Meeting and is written by Wilfred Owen. The analysis is done by Dr. Vinamrata and the poetry brings out the horrors of a war. Hello dear students, the poetry that we are going to analyze today is Strange Meeting, and it is a poetry which deals with the horrors of war. It is obviously understood that it is a war poetry, and Wilfred Owen himself is a war poet. He himself was a soldier who fought in wars, and he saw with his naked eyes what is the truth a soldier or the two warriors from two fronts have to face in a war, and what are the repercussions of fighting that war, what is the repercussions which normal common people have to face in their life. So this poetry was written in basically 1918 after the First World War, but it was published in 1919 after Owen's death. And there is this one quote about this poem. I would like to read it out for you. So, quote unquote, most haunting and complex war poems. So, war poetry is already what you all know. It was written in the interwar ages when the two world wars were fought, and it brings about or talks about war. It can be of two forms. It can be glorifying war because filled with the spirit of nationalism, or the party which wins their enjoyments of after the victory, the triumphant feeling after the victory. But the other fact is the horrors which it talks about, how a soldier faces the events on the battlefield. So this is all about in this poem, and this poem unravels in a very mystifying way. First you will not understand where you are, it's also obscure, and then slowly the poetry unravels. So let's begin line by line analysis of the poem, and then we'll try to understand how or what is the poet trying to convey to us. So here is this poetry in front of us, and the basic structure of this poem is that it has been divided into 6 stanzas. All the 5 stanzas are in 8 lines, where the last stanza you see 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. These 5 stanzas are in 8 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But the last stanza, you see this last stanza is in 4 lines, and not also 4, 3.5 lines. So this is the basic structure of the poem, and the poem is written in para rhymes. So what is a para rhyme? Para rhyme is like half rhyme, you can say, because you see the first and second lines: escaped and scooped, groined and groaned, bestirred and stared. They are rhyming but not totally rhyming. A little bit of rhyme is there, half rhyme is there. So this kind of poetry is called, or this form of rhyme scheme is called half rhymes or para rhymes. And you see this matches with the tone of the poem. Why? Because the poem itself is a bit haphazard, or you can say a bit lost because of the horrors of the war. The theme is not lost. Basically what I'm trying to say is that the grotesque nature of this poem, how it brings out the horrors of the war. So for that, this rhyme is perfect. Now we move on to the poetry. We'll start up the line by line analysis of the poem. You see the first line says, it seemed that out of the battle I escaped, down some profound dull tunnel, long since scooped through granites which titanic wars had groaned, yet also these encumbered sleepers groaned, too fast in thought or dead to be bestirred. Then, as I probed them, one sprang up and stared with piteous recognition in fixed eyes, lifting distressful hands as if to bless. So he's talking about a tunnel, and he feels that he has escaped from the war somehow, because there is a soldier on the other front, and here he is there on his side, and the war is being fought, the fires have been opened, and amidst this war, amidst this firing, suddenly he feels that everything is ceased, he is out of this place. And how he is out of this place? So he thinks that maybe he has traveled down some tunnel. He feels as if he is going down a tunnel, and what he thinks that this tunnel is a kind of trench or a tunnel made specially for war, carved out of granite. See, he says that down some profound dull tunnel, long since scooped. That tunnel has been made, it has been scooped out through granites, by the use of granites. Why? Because soldiers used to make these kinds of tunnels, these kinds of trenches, to hide when firing is there. So such kinds of tunnels were man-made, and he says that he suddenly feels that somehow he has dropped down into one of those dull dry tunnels. And why these tunnels were scooped? It says with titanic wars. Titanic means huge. Titans were the ancient gods even before Zeus came. So just like the Titans, strong and almighty wars were fought. And but when he entered that tunnel, he saw people groaning there. It was already encumbered with sleepers, people who were sleeping down there, and they were groaning there, too fast in thought or death to be stirred, as if they were dead, or they were so fast asleep, they were in such a kind of thought that he dared not stir them up, he dared not wake them up. But then he probed one of them, and he sprang up, he rose to his feet, and he stared with his piteous eyes. Why? Because everyone is full of the horror of the war. So the eyes are full of pity, and he stares directly into the poet's eyes, fixed his eyes on his eyes, lifting his distressful hand, because he is totally vexed by the war. So his hand is also being lifted in a distressful form, and he tries to bless the poet. Now, who is this man? The poet tries to find out. And by his smile I knew that sullen hall. By his dead smile I knew we stood in hell. So till now he was thinking that he has escaped the war, and somehow he has fallen down in a tunnel. And that's why he is in a hideout, he is in a safe place. But no, now when he saw that man and his face and his expression, he feels that he is very much sure where he is. That tunnel which he has travelled was not the tunnel of war, but that was the tunnel which has brought him to the other world. Means now he realizes that he is in hell. He has died and now he is in hell, and all these people who are flooring the floor of hell, who are full of the dead body, the hell is full of these swollen people, these sullen people, because there are so many casualties in war. So the dead smile makes him analyze that he is in war, and the hell is full of dead people because of the war. With 1,000 fears, that vision's face was grained, and no blood reached there from the upper ground. So we can see the death on the face, because when you are dead, there is no blood flowing on your face, there is no color on your cheeks, you will be white as death. So he could see that there was 1,000 fears on that face, on that vision's face. 1,000 fears were grained, the fears which he had seen in the war, and there was no blood on his face. It was as if white. No blood reached from upper ground, from heart or from head. No blood was flowing on the face. So he could very well recognize that this is the face of a dead man. And no guns thumped, because if he is in a trench, if he is in a war and he is hiding in a tunnel beneath the war, so obviously he could hear guns there, he could hear battle cries there, but he is unable to hear any guns. And down the flues made moan, strange friend, I said, here is no cause to mourn. So now he understands that he is dead, because he can hear no more guns, and he can no more hear the cries of mourning of the dead bodies, dead people in the, or dying people in the war. So he now finally realized that this friend who he has met, he says, strange friend, now I know we have no cause to mourn, because once you are dead, you are free from the worldly moh maya, as we can say. All this worldly illusion is gone, and so you have nothing to mourn for. None, said the friend other, because the another person has also realized that they are in hell, and in hell there is nothing to mourn save the undone years. Only what is that they can grieve about, what is they can feel pity for, that they can mourn on, is the years that are gone, the years of the hopelessness, whatever hope is yours. Because what they were hoping was that when the war will end, they will go back to their homes. There will be some years after the war which they will see with their families, which they will enjoy. But those years are undone. Those years cannot come anymore. Why? Because they have died in the war. Now those years are only that they can pity for. Those years which they were really desperately looking forward to. Was my life also. I went hunting wild, after the wildest beauty in the world, which lies not calm in the eyes or braided hair, but mocks the steady running of the hour. And if it grieves, grieves richlier than here. For by my glee might many men have laughed, and of my weeping something has been left, which must die now. I mean the truth untold. So he is saying that he was a chivalrous young man. He went out hunting, he was wild, he was searching for wildest beauty in the world. What can be wildest beauty? Beauty and wild. It is a kind of antithesis here, and not antithesis, actually oxymoron here. And he says that that beauty was not in some lady's braided hair or the smile or the calm of her eyes. No, the beauty was not in love, the beauty was in war. He was searching for something, something which gives him some kind of hunting pleasure, something which gives him a kind of fame, a kind of name, being a warrior, doing something for the country, being a patriot, but mocks the steadying running of the hour. But that time he was not understanding the repercussions what he will face in the war. So now he understands that whatever he was craving for, that thing is just a mockery. The war is the glory of war, which we are told that this is the glory of war and we have won and our country is the best. It is all null, all void when you really face that. It mocks him. It mocks him when he sees this hour, what world has faced because of these wars, and he grieves for it. And he grieves even more richlier than here. Why? Because when he thought about his war days, many men laughed at him, because he was happy at the feeling of war, that I am a soldier, I am going to fight the war. He was full of glee, he was happy, but people laughed at him. And now, and of my weeping something has been left. Now he understands it, now he weeps for it, and something is left which must die now. That hope. There was hope, na, that I will survive and I'll go after this war and I'll be termed as a chivalrous person who has come back from war. So all those dreams, all those hopes are gone. And so the truth must be told. The truth which nobody knows, it is untold till now. People think that war is something, to die for your country, being a patriot is something which is overwhelming, but it is not. The truth can only be told by the people who have faced it, and now he can say what is the truth, and he says that the truth till now is untold. So he wants to share it with everyone. What is the truth? The pity of war. The pity war distilled. Now men will go content with what we spoiled. We have spoiled it. we have fought this war and so many people are dead, their families are suffering, there is economic crisis and all such things. So now he can say that men will go content with what we have sold. People can do nothing about it. So what they will have to do? They will have to be satisfied with what has been, what, that quote from Hamlet, what's done cannot be undone. So the war has been fought, it cannot be undone. So the blood which has been spilled cannot be taken back. Or discontent boil bloody and be spilled, they will be swift with swiftness of the tigress, none will break ranks. So the people who are still in the war, they will not break ranks, they will fight chivalry, fight in a chivalrous way like the tigers, and they will be the new generation will be even more patriotic and having this feeling that because my ancestors died on the battlefield, we are also ready to do the same, not understanding what were the horrors that the ancestors had faced. The nations trek from progress. If the war was not fought, all the money, all the things, all the arms which is being bought, and the young people who are dying, they must have put their input into something creative. So that creativity is stopped. Nothing creative is being done in the country. So the nation has been shunned from progress. It is stopped from progress. There is no more progress. Courage was mine, and I had mystery. Wisdom was mine, and I had mastery. To miss the march of this retreating world. So when he was courageous, when he was chivalrous, when he was ready to fight for the country, when he was fighting the patriotic fight, what he found was he was not knowing the truth. He had mystery. He never knew what was the reality of this war. But when he has got this wisdom, he understands, he has the mastery of thoughts, he understands the reality of the war, but he knows that the world is retreating. To miss the march of the retreating world, where is the world marching? Because of the war, where is the world heading towards? Is it progressing? No, the world is retreating. Till now, what are the money which has been spent in the wars? How many people died for the war? How many young minds died in the war? If that was not done, there would have been no economic crisis, because every war brings economic crisis. Plus, the creative minds would have done something innovative, something for the betterment of the country. That is not being done. So the world is not progressing in any way. It is retreating back. But we are not aware of the fact. We are still so much disillusioned. We are still so much, we are like having a kind of black waves on our eyes, black shades on our eyes, that we don't understand, we don't realize the repercussion of the war, and that we are heading towards, actually we are retreating, not heading towards anything, into vain citadels that are not world. What are we doing? We are thinking that we are living in palaces, we are living in citadels. Our country is the most glorious of all the palaces, of all the citadels, and it is not world. Then, when much blood had clogged their chariot wheels, I would go up and wash them from sweet wells. So what we are doing? We are kind of saying that this is our palace, we are claiming the palace, we are claiming the territory, and the territory is not walled. There is nothing to protect you. People are fighting for that boundaries. Why is basically war there? War is because of the resources, because for the resources, and basically the most important resource is the land. So obviously wars are fought for the land, and every country is claiming this is my land, this is my land. The war is being fought, not deciding the boundaries of the country, and because of those walls the fight is being done, and so much bloodshed is there, that the chariot in which we are driving cannot move any forward. Why? Because it is locked, it has been clogged because of the blood, blood which has been spilt all over, it has clogged the wheels of the chariot and it cannot move any more further. If you have to make the wheels moving, you have to wash the wheels. And how the wheels will be washed? The wheels will be washed from the sweet wells, from the waters brought from the sweet well, even with truths that lie too deep for taint. I would have poured my spirit without stint, but not through wounds, not on the cess of war. He says that everyone must know the truth. The clogging of the chariot wheels and their being washed is the typical scenario of a war, and everyone must be aware of the thing. But what we are told as normal people, we are only told about the glories of the war, that because we fought the war and we won as a country and we are winning, we are on the better position or the better side. So just we wear those black shades and we see nothing, we see only what is shown to us. So he says that he wants to speak the truth which lies too deep. It's hidden truth, it's down deep. I would have poured my spirit without stint. He would have spoken out his spirits, he would have accepted what is the repercussion of the war, not through wounds, but not on the cess of the war. So not through wounds. The horrifications of war should not be understood after the war has been fought. It should be understood even before. Then only war can be stopped. Ultimately, if you die and everything has been destructed, and then you realize that the war was not fruitful, what is the use? The use is only when you realize it even before the war was fought. So not on the cess of war, not after showing the wounds. Foreheads of men have bled where no wounds were. I am the enemy you killed, my friend. So lastly, the person who sprang up and to whom he is talking, the stranger, you see the title itself says strange meeting. It was a very strange meeting. The person accepts the fact that the day before you had killed me. So in war we don't know who we are killing. It can be a nice person. We could have been friends if lest we were on the wars on the two different fields. So now he recognizes the man. I knew you in this dark, for you so frowned yesterday through me as you jabbed and killed. So if you have to survive, you have to kill this person who is standing in front of you, the enemy. So the author also did the same thing. He jabbed the person, he killed him, and that frown when he was killing the person, that frown he remembers. And he says that now I recognize you today because of the same frown. I parried, struggled to be free, but my hands were loath. He could not move anymore because of the strangulation, because of the jabbing, because the poet had hit him so hard, he had overpowered him, and he could not fight anymore, and his hands became loath, and he was cold. He died. He left the warmth, he left this world. And now let us sleep. Let us sleep now. These are the last unfinished lines, and there are 3 ellipses after it. Ellipses signify that to be continued kind of thing, or something which is left in between 2 sentences. Also ellipses are used, but here it is at the end. So he says that to be continued kind of thing. And why it is left in an open vein? Because these 2 people will sleep. They have fought the war, they have died, they can do nothing. They want to tell the truth to the world, but they cannot by any means. And the story continues. There will be even more wars. Then after their death, the next generation will be fighting. And they don't know when there will be seizure to it, when there will be an end, a stop to this war. So this is a kind of illuminating piece of work where the poet opens up your eyes. It is an eye opener. He wants you to realize what are the repercussions and the horrors of the war, and why wars should not be fought. So that is all for this poetry. Thank you.